Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Wisdom Within. I have a very exciting guest, the one and only Abbey Rae Wilson. Give us a wave.
Hello.
So, Abbey Rae Wilson is a human design reader and expert. She's the queen of human design. And I had a reading with her in January this year, and then I was lucky enough to hang out with her in person in Bali just a couple months ago. And I was like, I have to have you on to talk about human design because so many people still don't know what it is. So that's probably a good place to start with what is
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. So one thing I want to say is I find it quite amazing now because when I started my journey with human design, literally nobody knew what it was. It was something everybody had questions about it. What is it? What does it mean? And no one knew what it was. But now it's gained that recognition because more and more people are connecting with it and seeing how it really like elevates their lives, and more people are talking about it. So it's really interesting for me to see that jump and that shift now. But as you say, there are still people that don't know what it is. So the easiest way I can explain it is human design is a blueprint of who you are. It is what you bring to the world. It is how your energy moves, and it is a modality for how you can best live your life, by being more yourself. This is what it's about. It's the science of differentiation. So it's what makes you different to me and me different to you, and how you
Wow.
can lean into that more,
Yeah,
so
it's so amazing. And maybe you could just speak into a bit about what different threads and lineages it combines and like where it came
right.
from.
Yeah, and this is for me, like, this is a part of human design that I love talking about because for me this is why it is so rich with so much information. It's a combination of astrology, the chakra system, the Chinese I Ching, the Kabbalah, quantum physics. Like, it's this combination of all of these modalities that we have used for thousands of years as a way to explain why we're here or our place in the universe. And it's all of these modalities blended in one place.
Hmm.
So it's kind of like you get like this really, you can imagine, like, then your human design, it becomes as layered as you are and as powerful
Mm.
as you are. So when I'm in sessions with people or when I'm talking to people about human design, I can say specific things about their chart. And it's like, I mean, I felt this when someone first read my chart. And it was like, how do you even know that? Like, that's such like a deep part of myself that I've
Mm.
never expressed before. Like, how can you see that in this chart? It brings this richness
Mm.
to this modality when they're all in one place.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to even explain the amount of depth it can go into, and like even in one reading, like there's so many layers
Mm.
and like
Mm-hmm.
ways you can read and go into things. And so, yeah, I think it can give you so much information about so many different aspects of who you are. And I wanted to
Mm.
go into the idea of human differentiation and why it's important to
Mm.
understand yourself and go on that
Mm-hmm.
journey.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think I always think about it in this way. I'm like, we are taught from when we are little that we have to live life in the same way. So those things that we want, there's only one way to attain them. There's only one route that we're supposed to take to live a, quote unquote perfect life.
Mm.
And really, like, we just have to look around, like, we are all completely different. We look different, our thumbprints are unique, and your soul is the same. Your soul is this like layered energy. And the more that you can understand, like, kind of what your energetic makeup is, the more that you can be happier at just being yourself and just doing life the way that you want to do it. It's, I always say, like, as well, when it comes to explaining human design, I can explain sort of, the basis of what it's about and what it blends. But honestly, every single person gets something completely different out of it. A different narrative is shifted, the way they see themselves and they've lived through their lives. It's changed, and they're able to feel empowered to go their own way. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's this is what makes it important for me.
Yeah, I think maybe if I like speak about my personal example will help people bring this to life. So when
Mm-hmm.
I first heard about human design, so I'm a manifesting generator, and I was in a place where I was always moving between things and like felt like I started to identify as someone who was like non-committal and like couldn't make my mind up and like didn't follow things through. And when we had our call, you were saying how like that's how I'm meant to be. Like you're meant to go with what lights you up and be okay with leaving something for another thing. And like my energy changes quickly. And so it kind of like explains and almost validates your behavior in a way that you learn to use the way that you naturally are in order to reach your highest potential. Because how can you reach your highest potential when you don't understand your own power and like what you're
Exactly.
here to be?
Exactly. So it reframes so much for, as you said, like almost like the limiting stories that we have in our heads of why
Mm,
am I like this? It starts to become a tool. It starts to become like, how can I be more like myself?
mm,
And obviously, I'm a manifesting generator too, so we vibe on this.
we
Like, I
do.
know exactly where you are.
Yes.
And it was the same for me. It was this, and something happened recently. When it comes to reframing this, because I believe when you reframe it within, it's reframed on the outside too. So, if you think, one of the things about manifesting generators is what are other people thinking? Are other people like, thinking that I can't sit still, or I can't stay in one place, I can't commit my energy. But for me, like, I had a situation where, well, you know me, like, I like to travel. I'm always in different places, and I've lived in many places. And I always thought, like, like, I need to settle somewhere. Like, I need to settle. And once I reframed that, like, my energy loves to expand. It's not that I'm not settling, it's that I'm in like a state of expansion. And that causes me to outgrow things, maybe at a faster pace than others. And I'm okay with that, because for me, that feels good and it feels like abundance. And my mom was on a phone call with my cousin recently, and she was telling my cousin, "Oh, Abby's going to Bali." And my cousin said, "Wow, she can settle anywhere." It wasn't how the reframe that I used to get, where when are you going to settle? When are you going to find one place? It was the opposite of, wow, like you can really settle anywhere. And for me, I took that as I've reframed it myself, and it's just showed up on the outside too, you know?
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
because we were just talking about that when we were together about where you were thinking to settle, and like, yeah, even you saying that is so powerful for me because that was the reason I felt so cool to do a call with you because, like, obviously I'm a manifesting generator too. So when I
Yeah.
heard you originally on a podcast, you were talking about how you kept moving around, and I was like, oh my gosh, me too. And yeah, I've
Yeah.
also been feeling that, like, oh, I need to find somewhere to settle. So yeah, even you saying that, it's like,
Hmm.
I can create multiple lives anywhere I go with ease.
Absolutely. And it's
And
almost like,
yeah.
your wings, like I always, my mom used to say this to me when I was younger. If I was in like a situation where I would sort of I'd feel stuck, because manifesting generators, we don't like that. Like we want to be free and we want to be, expanding. She used to say to me, "Oh, like your wings have been clipped in this situation." And
Mm,
I don't think it doesn't mean that we can't commit. This is what I don't want to communicate. It doesn't mean that at all. It just means we need, as manifesting generators, there needs to be variety and the freedom
mm,
to have variety in our
yes.
lives, and the freedom to be able to change our minds, and,
Mm,
to just to feel like free in your soul. That's what
yeah.
it is.
And I think the
Mm-hmm.
thing is people like even when I've got back like I've saw some like relatives and they're like, "Oh, you've just been floating around the world, like where have you been?" Like this word of like floating. And yeah, I think that's why human design is so important because like maybe people won't understand you, but if you understand yourself, then like people's perceptions of you won't be as impactful and you won't be as dictated to live your lives according to other people's perceptions and expectations because you're like, no, this is actually how my energy works best. And like having that knowing and like knowing that that is how you were designed to be and living according to that, like what people say won't matter because you're like, no, like this is me. And you can fully own
Yeah.
that.
Exactly. I love that. Like that is like, I think that's like half the power of it, is like, and it's also like it kind of brings up another point is, when we get connected with how we energetically move through the world, when we're connected with how our soul likes to be, it's like you said, we feel empowered to do it. We feel compassion and acceptance for ourselves. And in turn, we also can transfer that to other people,
Mm,
because you might not know someone's design, but you can safely sort of say and connect with, well, if I've got like my whole own lens going on and my own perspective on how I want to move through the world, so have they. And that's
mm.
okay, you know? And so
Exactly. It
there's
works
just
both
this
ways through like understanding
100%.
yourself and others. And what we were speaking about together is also how important it is for your children to know their designs because when you, from a young age, can empower a child to live according to their design, it's so much easier for them to flourish because they don't have to unlearn all the teachings that they've been told that go
Mm-hmm.
against who they truly are. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, Abby does do it. A lot of stuff for kids.
Yeah. So no, for sure. It's I mean, human design, the guy who channeled human design, he talks about, in the beginning, he spoke about how actually human design is for the children, So
Mm,
really it is like this, if we can gift children this ability to understand themselves. And it's not about telling children, oh, you're a manifesting generator or you're a projector. It's not about that. It's just about like nurturing them in a way that is supportive to how
mm,
they naturally are,
exactly.
And when we can do that, as you say, it's like there's none of that deconditioning process later on. It's
Mm,
like, and when they come from that foundation, I think really the main conditioning happens when we are kind of in those teenage years. It's when we are more susceptible to what the outside world thinks. It's when we're more susceptible to trying to keep up with others and things like that. And I think if you've come from a foundation that is so rooted in self empowerment, it's kind of like those sort of things, they don't affect you as much, you
mm,
know? Hmm.
yeah, exactly. So, yeah, we've kind of spoken into manifesting generators, but maybe for people who've never heard of it, we can just speak into, yeah, the other main energy types and then also like maybe a bit about the gates and like aspects of a chart.
So, what I would say firstly is when it comes to your energy type, it is your aura. So it's sort of like what your aura says about you when you walk into a room, what you how your energy naturally works, and sort of like what you gift people in that process as well. And as we said with the manifesting generator, you'll know the manifesting generators in your life, because it's like one of the funny things I say about manifesting generators is they usually walk quite fast. Like it's a really like very like literal perspective on the energy, but it's like they're faster. Like their energy is fast, you know? So it's like a big engine, the manifesting generator.
People who know me
Where
and are
it,
watching this would laugh because I walk really slowly.
I was, you know what? I was, when I said that, I was like, I think you actually walk quite slow. But all the manifesting generators I know, including myself, it's like, everyone's like, why are you in a hurry? Where are you going?
Yeah, I am fast in other ways, but I think I've done so much mindfulness that now I'm like, oh, I love to just take things in. But in other ways,
Right.
I'm very fast. So yeah, that's funny. But I
I
can see
also
why
think,
that's a thing.
I also think this is another part of your chart as well. Um, but then we have the generators, and the generators, these are like, you know, a manifesting generator is part generator. But the generators, those are those people that they kind of walk into a room and it lights up. You know, just being around like a generator that is in their zone, you know, that they are committing their energy to things that they want to commit it to. It's so infectious. Like you can kind of go away from being around a generator and sort of feel like inspired and energized to get things moving, to start doing things. um Now, the difference I would say between the manifesting generator and the generator is there's a lot of the generators, they're slower, they're more how would I say, like they have like this devotion and this like staying power about them. It's like once they commit to something, like they're all in and they're going the whole way with it, you know. Whereas the manifesting generator, they kind of move through it quicker, you know.
Mm.
um and and yeah, so generators literally, and I will say this so many times, and it sounds, I always say it sounds so simple, but as a generator, you have to do the things that you like that's it, you know. But a lot of generators are that workhorse, you know. They're
Mm.
sort of giving into what they think they should be doing, and you know, they're natural givers, so they're just giving their energy away and doing favors for people, and you know, and it's, this is where they lose that like electricity of their aura, and that satisfaction that they're supposed to
Mm.
be living in.
Mm.
So projectors, these are the guides. So what was funny for me is when I started to look into human design, and I think you probably did the same thing because it showed up so much for me, like it made so much sense to me. I started generating everybody's charts I knew. You know, everybody that was like my family members, my friends. And what I found out was all of my sort of go to guides, you know, the people who I would ask for advice, they were all projectors. And it's kind of poetic, really,
Mm.
because that's the energy of a projector. A projector is able to really sense the energy of a room, like they're super sensitive. But what they're able to do, that sensitivity actually fuels their perspective, and they're able to guide you in ways that are most optimal for you, most better for you. Like they're able to sort of see like the higher perspective on things and guide you in that way. And yeah, so, but for projectors, it's really important that they put that energy where it's asked for, where it's appreciated. where it's recognized, because that's sometimes where they can find that resistance, you know, in their lives. And all of the types are, some are more common than others, you know. So I mean, currently we live in a generator dominated world. And so what that means is, you know, if you think about like an actual generator, it's just like, it's got energy. It's just going. And so the manifesting generators and the generators, that's what they're out doing. And that feels good to them. It feels correct. But for a projector, for example, the energy doesn't work in the same way. And so where they can sort of find that challenge is, you know, trying to keep up with the way the world has taught them they have to be. You know, you have to put your foot on the pedal, and you have to hustle, and you have to grind, and this can sometimes be a wounding for projectors. But so once projectors really unlearn that, or they hear how their energy is supposed to unravel and flow, it's like this aha moment, you know, for projectors. And then we have the manifestors. So the manifestors they're about 8% of the population. And these are the people that I always joke, actually, that I can tell when someone's a manifestor, because you can feel them walk into the room, because they just have like this, there's this presence about manifestors, and I can't even like explain it, but it's like you feel it, and then they'll say, oh, I'm a manifestor, and you're like, oh, that's what I felt. Of course, because it's just like there's like this energy about them. And yeah, the manifestors, they're here to express themselves. Like they're here to, you know, they're kind of like the trailblazers. You know, they get these ideas and they're here to initiate them. They're here to express them and put them out in the world. And so something with manifestors is there's this sort of fear of rejection, because they're all about newness. You know, they're about like putting new things out in the world. And, you know, as much as we crave newness in the world, it's almost like we're afraid of it, you know? And so this is where sometimes manifestors can dim their light or lower their tone as a way to protect themselves from that rejection, when honestly they've got to be in that expressive power. J.K. Rowling is a great example of a manifestor. You know, she's created a whole new world of Harry Potter. She was rejected, I think, like 13 times or something by publishers. And she still knew it was something, and she continued, you know? And then we have our reflectors. And our reflectors are just the 1%, you know? They are like, they're very sensitive too, but they have like, their aura is what we call sampling. So they really like, they walk into a room and they're like the chameleons. They really adapt to the energies that are going on around them. And they have this way, that ability that they have gives them this way of really shining a light on who people are. And what comes up with that is a lot of truth. You know, sometimes reflectors come into your life to show you what is blocking you. And sometimes they come into your life to deeply see you and show you where you need to go. So they have it's very important for reflectors to understand their human design, to know what role they're here to play, because they're just 1%, you know?
Yeah. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for that. Yeah, so useful. And I hope it helped people. Yeah, like
Hmm.
push people to go look up what they are. But obviously, beyond that, there's so much more detail. So you have like the
Hmm.
number beside it, and then you have your gates and your incarnation cross. So obviously, there's so
Hmm.
much detail to go into, but maybe you want to just speak into those a little bit, just so people can get a flavor for what there is.
Hmm. So of course, like it's like a blueprint, you know? So I think anybody like who listens to this episode and feels that excitement and that like light up about something that I'm saying is connecting with you, it's like it's time for you to generate your chart, have a look what's, what it's all about. And we do say, we have our foundations. So the foundations of your chart, these are your energy types, which I just covered. Um, your strategy, which is how you use your energy type, and your authority, which is how you best make decisions. And for me, this completely changed my life. To understand how I best make decisions, it was like it literally activated something in me and like woke me up. It made me realize I wasn't making decisions from myself. I was making them. I wasn't even like making decisions. I was just allowing them to be made for me and just going along with it, not
Mm.
being intentional. Um, what your energy type is going with your gut, right?
Sacral.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a different authority in that way.
Mm.
So that's a
What's yours?
difference that we have. I'm emotional. So I have
Ah.
to, and it's always really funny because like I have to wait, like I have to like just like sleep on it, because I can get like so excited sometimes that actually and it could be an incorrect decision for me. It's like I'm sort of clouded by my
Mm.
emotions, so I have to let
Mm.
them settle a little bit. um but when it comes to like your decision making, how does that feel to you? Is that something that you find easy?
Yeah, so when I first had my reading with you, and like prior to that, decision making was something that I like really struggled with. And I think
Wow.
it's quite a wounded feminine thing that a lot of people face is just like kind of giving your power away to everything else and just feeling so lost in like
Right.
your inner knowing. And so, yeah, just knowing this one fact, which you can pull up for free online, of like where you're meant to make your decisions from. And even if in the beginning it doesn't feel natural, that's because you for so long haven't made decisions from that space. So, like, of course, it takes time to really like come back to listening to there, but at least when you're faced with a decision, you can start to direct your energy towards that area and just really start to listen by bringing your awareness there. And so, yeah, I'm not going to lie, like, it's still a process for me. And at times, our minds can get so crowded that we don't drop into that. And so, I've definitely got so much better. And I have some other tools that I
Mm.
use, like a pendulum and like random coin generators,
Uh,
but I think decision making is such an interesting one. And yeah, I think for me,
mhm.
just making it is so much better than really waiting.
Yeah. I find as well, like in my relationship sessions, this is a huge one. I think on
Mm,
an individual level, like understanding how you make decisions is so important, because then you can sort of like it's almost like you can take out that indecision. But I love what you said about, yeah, it can be like a wounded feminine part of ourselves is giving away our power and, always saying yes, not having
mm,
boundaries. And how I see it now is when I am making decisions from my decision making authority, it's actually like it's almost like I'm making decisions with my higher self.
mm,
It's like my higher self, my future self is helping me co-create the life that I want, you know? And so, I mean, the universe is constantly presenting us with options, and it's kind of like, okay, my authority is helping me, you know, decide which option is best for me and for where I want to go to, you know?
Yeah, this is such a powerful thing because I think when you're starting to do this work or wherever you are, like there's always going to be a smaller decision you can make because then your smaller self or your ego or a part of you speaking that's trying to keep you small and safe, because we all have that in us because we're biological creatures here to survive. But when you tap into that God consciousness or your higher self or like the higher version of you, like we all have that ability to project like what would the highest version or like the highest possible thing be. And so even just with small things, just practicing like listening for that will allow it to infiltrate into your life.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, we always use the example in human design of, you know, your mind is the passenger, you know? So it's like your authority, like that's why they call it the authority. It's the driver. It's like making the decisions. It's saying which way we're going. And, you know, your mind is a passenger, and no one likes a backseat driver. You know, that's like if you like let your mind like um take on that role, then that is where you're disconnecting from, you know, as you say. But and it's good to kind of like, I think as well, I love to look at the mind from that like compassionate perspective. You know, it's the mind is almost like when it gets involved in your decision making process, it's kind of like a parent. You know, it's sort of like the mind wants you to do what is safe, you know, what
Yeah.
is comfortable. And that's just basically what it's experienced before or what it's seen before. And so when you're making decisions from there, it's not going to guide you to situations that may be uncomfortable, but guide you towards expansion. It's going to keep you in
Exactly.
the same places, you know, doing the same thing. And so it's kind of like, if you want, like, if you have like these great visions for your life and you want to, you know, live this big life, it's like you've got to make some big decisions. You know, you've got to allow yourself to trust yourself, you know, and what those are. Um, Rather than, as you said, like we keep ourselves small, you know,
Yeah, and I think that's
when we all
part of the
deserve
work
to
I'm
be.
doing. Yeah, part of the work I'm doing is like teaching people to drop out of their minds, because for some people they've literally never done that in their whole life because
Yeah.
they're stuck. And so
Mm.
yeah, just even generating this and starting to see like where are my decisions made from, because generically people will say go from your head to your heart, which is powerful, but in reality human design will show you that actually maybe it isn't your heart, maybe it's your emotions, maybe it's your sacral. And so that's really useful. And then yeah,
Yeah.
so moving on, we also have the gates.
hmm The gates are amazing. Like
The gates are amazing.
I have such a love for the gates. Like I love like how they show up. Like sometimes they can be so literal that it it is insane to me. Um I
I
remember
love your
actually
love.
we
I
were
love I love your love for the gates, because you're like, that's such a gate 25. And I'm like, oh, what does
yeah.
that mean?
No, I do. And it's
It's like
like
so cute.
I love when I am in those particular settings where I can actually I can say those things, you know, But because imagine my mind is constantly saying like, oh, that's such a gate 25.
Yeah, this is how Abby like
But
sees the world. She just like is looking at everyone being like, gate this, gate that. And it's just like so beautiful to just be around
uh,
someone who's actually like really living and like actually is genuinely like so excited about what you do. Because I'm sure loads of
mhm.
human design readers like they're interested, but that you like embody it and also like genuinely like could
Mhm.
just talk about it forever. And I'm like, this is
Yeah.
so amazing. I love it.
Oh, thank you. Um, but yeah, like so the gates are, I mean, they derive from the Chinese in I Ching, and this was known as the Book of Changes, and it was it was predominantly like a divination tool, like where they could sort of like predict the future and things like that. But there's 64 gates in the human design system, and depending on your chart, like you could have like 15 activated or you could have more or less, and the gates are very specific energies, and this is where like things get very unique, where we start to see how who you really are as a person and what you're here to bring, like what your purposes are and how you can step into them, each gate has a quality, it has a gift, but it also has a shadow. And
Mm,
so just like understanding those layers of yourself, they're going to come up in different points of your life, but what I would say is, generally our sun gate is one of the most important gates that we have. So looking at that is a good place to start. I want to use one of the examples that I spoke to you about. So there's a gate, and it is gate 59. And we were talking, and you were telling me about your, this is when you had just finished your Tantra course, and you were telling me about it, and we were talking about, you were telling me your perspective on Tantra and intimacy and connection and all of these things. And this is where I was like, this is so gate 59. I need to pull up your chart, because gate 59, it's literally about this. It's about intimacy, it's about sex, it's about creativity, it's about connection. And people who have this energy, it's just like it exudes from your aura. You can kind of feel it, and I remember, one of a client that I worked with, and it came up so literal for her that I was like, this is crazy. So she is a sex therapist,
mm,
and I was like, when she booked with me, I kind of knew who she was, and I was like, I am convinced that this is in her chart. And I pulled up her chart, and there it was. It was like
yeah,
in her chart, it was like, this is how you make money.
yeah,
And I was just like, this is just like, yeah, wild.
yeah. And there's
So,
just so many aspects. Like even I've always just been so naturally like positive and like even when people say negative things, I'm instantly like, oh, but like that's so beautiful. And like that was like
mm,
almost shut down in me because I was like, is there something wrong with me? Am I like toxically positive? And like, yes, I did have a journey to go on into my emotions, but like also I have the gate of like love of life and also the incarnation cross, a vessel of love. And I think, yeah, it like brought me so much peace just to know that that's what I'm here to be, like a vessel of love. Because before I would get so hurt by everyone because I felt like I had so much love to give and a lot of people couldn't match it. And I was always like, oh my gosh, like I just need to stop being so loving. But now I'm like, no, like
wow.
this is what I'm here to be. And like, as long as
Mm.
I nourish myself and take care of myself and continue to
Listen
attract the
to
peace,
yourself.
yeah, then like I can continue to be that. And like, in a world where there is a lot of darkness and things, like it's so important to know your design and what you're here to do because like a lot of the times the world will try keep you small in many ways.
Yeah. And sometimes I think actually our biggest gifts are the places where we have the biggest wounds as well.
Mm,
Because it's like it's almost like a calling from your soul, like this is where you need to go really big.
mm,
And it's kind of scary, you know? And so it's almost gonna I feel like we're almost like, I don't want to say tested, but it's almost like we're given these opportunities to really expand into that. And we're going to face these, projections sometimes. These projections are there to, get us to trust ourselves more, get us to, okay, like how big can you go? How much can you
mm,
trust it? And it's kind of like, so I think like sometimes we can experience, we can experience our wounds, like our general wounds in a big way in those places in our charts. Um,
yeah.
but but yeah, like the vessel of love, like it's so interesting to me because every client that I meet who has this energy, like one, they want to meet other people who have the same energy. And but they literally like that's what they say to me. I just want to love people. Like I just want to, you said it to me a few days ago, and another friend who is a vessel of love said it to me like the night before you said it to me. I just want to love people. Like I just want to give love and just like bathe in it and bask in it and be that sort of that beacon of love for people. And I think that's what you're here to bring,
Mm.
like you're here to be that soul, you know?
Yeah, and even just knowing that, because I feel like there are parts of me, or like people would say, like, you can't really just be here to do that, like, like this, like, meh, meh, but it's like, no, that's literally what I'm here to do. So, what do you think
Yeah.
about
And
it?
it can translate in so many different ways. It's not that you're just like someone who sits there and you're like, "Oh, I'm just here to bring love." Like, there's so many things that you can do with that, whether that be, like actually like empowering others on that self-love journey.
Yeah.
Because as you said, there's a lot of people that don't love themselves, that don't love their life. That's what
Hmm.
it's about. It's like,
Mm,
you attract those sort of people in your field when you need to open your heart,
mm,
to yourself, to relationships, to life, and it's such a powerful role.
mm.
And I mean, I always say I feel like everybody has like their own powerful role,
Yeah.
and it's just about like understanding that,
Yeah,
like we're
exactly.
not the same, and how great is that we're not the same,
Exactly. It's like
so mhm.
celebrating your uniqueness, and like you can't celebrate it if you don't know it, and you don't truly like take the time to look at what that is and truly like
Mhm.
bring
Mhm.
awareness to it.
So
What?
your incarnation cross is a combination of four gates. It's the cross that they make. And what the idea is of the incarnation cross is it's your purpose. It's what you incarnated for.
Hmm.
It's what you're here to bring the world. And so those four crosses, so those four gates that the cross aligns
Hmm.
with, these are really important for what you're doing in the world and how you're showing up.
Yeah.
So when it comes to your gates, I mean, I love all of them. I like to explore all of the gates, but when it comes to your gates, really, if you look at any of them, those are the most four important gates
Mm.
to understand and to play with and to
Yeah. Yeah, and I
experiment with, see what they mean.
think about how many people spend so long being like, what is my purpose here? And you
Hmm.
can literally
Hmm.
get the answer essentially, even though it might express itself in different ways, it will
Yeah.
definitely bring you to a point towards really connecting with that.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, it expresses itself in many different ways. So you can sort of like understand the language of, or the theme of kind of what your purpose is in this lifetime, but actually living through your energy type, your strategy, and how you make decisions, that's what gets you to the point. That's what gets you there,
Yeah.
So I always say, like, because it is a question I get often, what's my purpose? And sure, like, we can explore the different ways that it comes up in a chart. Sometimes it comes up pretty quick in a lot of charts, but actually something I always say is purpose doesn't land on your doorstep. It's not like this box that you open the door one day and it's there, or you jump on a call with someone and they tell you. Like, it's little by little. Like, you've got to allow yourself to follow the breadcrumbs. So for us as manifesting generators, like, those little things that excite us, they start, for me and human design, it started, someone introduced it to me and told me about it. And I was like, that's interesting. Yeah, I'd love to know more. And then I booked a session, and then I booked another session, and then I bought the textbook, and then it just like went like that. It wasn't that I seen human design and said, oh my God, that's my purpose. It didn't happen like that. It was little by little. But the more that I go down this journey and the more that I unravel, I go, oh my God, like, I'm just heading straight towards, what my purposes are in this lifetime.
And you said purposes, and it's like it is something that's always changing in some way, because especially as manifesting generators, we're constantly
Yeah.
expanding. So how can our purpose stay as the same thing? And so whilst it can help bring guidance to understanding and giving you direction, it is something that
Yeah,
is going to
for sure.
evolve because we're always changing. So
It's like a permission tool, it's
yeah.
kind of like with human design, like a lot of, I mean, as I say, like, my first experience with it was, I recognize so much of what you're saying. But then, so it gives me that permission of, like, I can be like that. And also the tools of, like, this is how you can kind of work with it a little bit more. And yeah, that's like what it's about. And just like connecting with that is the power.
Yeah, and I think, as you say about your readings, is that they're like for lifetimes, because there's so many different
Mm.
avenues to explore, and like different things will arise at different points in your life. And so, you know, getting one reading is great, but also it is something that you can refer back to constantly in your life or in
Yeah.
every part of your day, like Abby does.
Yes. Yes. I love that because I have a lot of people and they will say to me, like, I'll have a session with someone and then I will receive a message like 3 months later and they will say, like, oh, I just pulled up and listened to my session again and I read through my written reading and oh my God, like, it's helping me in this way right now. So that's what, when it comes to human design, I'm like, there's so much longevity to it because what I'm sharing with you about your design is static, the design doesn't change. What happens around you changes, the influence of energies or, the cosmic energies that are going on. That's what changes. But if you can connect to your sovereign self, then that's fine. Anything can happen. You're sort of connected.
So beautiful. And yeah, I had the same thing. Like I still refer back to our reading, and obviously we talk and you always
Mm-hmm.
drop little bits of
Yeah.
wisdom for me. But I
Can't
think,
help
yeah,
myself.
I'm like, don't keep going. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, and I think it's such a beautiful gift to give to yourself. And I think I know a lot of people who are so afraid to just like invest in these things, or they think, oh, don't need to get readings. And I'm like, no, like go for it, because like it will literally change your life in so many
Yeah,
ways. And there's actually no way it can't change your life.
absolutely. And it's one of my favorite things to tell my friends is like, I think whenever you invest in yourself in anything, especially when it comes to self development and getting to know yourself, it has the greatest ROI, you know? So it's so important to just allow yourself to, those places that you're guided towards, you know, maybe it's not human design, maybe it's astrology, maybe it's something else, like, whatever it is that is sort of, maybe it's on your Instagram feed and you're like intrigued by it or something like this, like let yourself explore that, because
Mm.
there's obviously it's connecting with something within you and trying to, bring something to you. So
Yeah, I think
allow.
even that is powerful, like really following that intrigue, because for me that wasn't obvious before, because when you're living from your
Mm,
mind and what's logical, when you're like getting a little bit of ooh, you don't think that that's something necessarily to listen to. You're like kind of like, no, no, like let me just ignore that
mm. Yeah,
type
like
of
you
thing.
can talk yourself out of stuff, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So this is like what I always say, and this is part of, my incarnation cross. And it's kind of like about
I
stepping
forgot
into
what
that
yours
creator
is.
mode. I am the left angle cross of endeavors. So
Ooh.
the main part of my incarnation cross is I have gate 21 in the sun, and this is the energy of like being in control of your own reality. And this is
Mm.
exactly, when I come back to it so many times, I'm like, this is what I do. I guide other people to be in control of their own reality.
Wow.
And everything has to start with myself, though. So, if there's any like times in my life where I feel I have like when it comes to control, I've had to learn a lot through that, about over controlling myself or over controlling the environments around me or something like that. And actually just channeling, or what I've learned is the only thing I can control is myself. I can't
Mm.
control anything else. And from that, it's brought me so much peace.
Mm.
Mm,
Wow, that
yeah.
really, like when you said that, I was like, oh yeah, that's the thing. Like, you
Mm,
get so many of those oh yeah moments when you get
yeah.
human design. You're like, oh my god, it's crazy,
Yes,
and it's so
yes, I
beautiful that
know.
you,
Mhm.
yeah, it's so beautiful that you guide people through that, and that we have this available to us so
Exactly.
readily, easily. You can
Hmm.
literally download your chart, and so maybe you want to speak a bit about ways people can work with you and the charts that
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
offer.
Yeah. So, what I would always guide people to do if you are like just interested and you're intrigued and you want to know what your design is, I have a free download that people can access straight away. So, it's like a free mini reading about their own design. So in it, you will put the link, you can put the link somewhere, and, you can find out, you can type in your information, you can find out what your energy type is, what that kind of means, what your decision making authority is, what that means, and your life profile. And you can just like allow yourself to digest that information and see how it feels for you. And then, of course, if you're called to work with me in a deeper way, I do written readings, which are, I call them your forever. All of my readings are like forever readings. That's what I like to call them. And so I have the written form or the supportive form as well. So if you want to work with me in a connective space, then that's also sometimes available.
Mm,
So,
yes.
yeah, so you can
And
find
yeah,
me
I
there.
think, yeah, and this podcast is all about wisdom, and I think there is no greater reading you can get to get in touch with your wisdom, because it
Mm,
combines so many things. It's so detailed, and it can really connect you with your soul, with your energy, with all parts of your being and what you're here to do, and really unlocking your wisdom within. And so, do you have any
Wow.
last messages to share about any wisdoms that are wanting to come through? Any other things that you feel like
Mm.
people need to hear in this moment and what's going on in the world? Yeah.
Mm. I think it's so, I feel like in the world right now, this is what I'm feeling so much, is that there's such like an expensive season happening. There's a lot of rising happening. And so it's kind of like now is the time for us to really call in our own rising,
Mm-hmm.
to call in to stepping in to being our higher self, you
Mm-hmm.
know? Yeah, like it's like those parts of yourself, that higher self, those visions that you have about your life, like they are there. They're waiting for you to rise up to meet them. That's it. And it's kind of like, people talk a lot about manifestation, all of those things. I believe when you are in your alignment with your design, you manifest things quicker. Things
Mm-hmm.
arrive quicker because you're on the frequency of your higher self. you
Mm-hmm.
know um that's what it's about. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think really there's a lot of rising happening right now, and it's just time for everybody to step into that space, and claim
Mm-hmm.
the reality they want.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Beautiful. Yeah, well,
mhm
thank you so much for being here. I hope you all go look into human design if you never have before, or revisit it if you have, and go into it more
mhm
deeply because it's such a powerful tool. So, yeah,
yeah,
thank you so much.
amazing. Thank you so much for having me. I love chatting with you. So,
I love chatting with you too. Bye.
little
I'll
vessel of love. Bye.